Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. Apparently some of your fans, Dan, think that I put you up against a little guy to make you look good. It's unbelievable, the shit that comes out of these. It's quite remarkable, actually. In a bad way, not in a good way. Not remarkable because it's how some people have enough free time to pontificate. And I would assume that I'm not the only YouTube channel that they pontificate on. I would imagine that they're flapping their lips to everybody. And some of them write War and Peace. You know how you have to hit read more? And then it's quite amazing. And we've only blocked just very few people. Because I want the good, the bad, and the ugly. But some of these guys that write one after another, and then we've blocked a handful of those. But it's quite amazing. We're getting down to the short strokes. Like sex, it all comes at the end. This is the program, and it's all this is on the website, free, and torrent and when I first found out about torrent, was the straw that broke the camel's back. This is maybe many years ago now. That when I stopped selling all this stuff, and but the kids that do the best are the kids that don't skip from 1 to 5, and they actually go through creating your own foundation, because you're the ones that are fucked up between here. And then clarifying your vision, building the perception. Perception is that, some of the kids say, fake it till you make it. That's what they, practicing being successful, smelling the leather, looking at the houses, and upgrading your wardrobe and then going on to the creating your dream team. And by the time you do the first few steps and you get to talking to your first potential chairman, the idea is you feel better about yourself, you look better, blah, 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 blah. And then you work through the dream team. And there's really 2 sections of the dream team. There's the internal dream team, which is your board. And then there's your external outside, which is your outside accountants and your lawyers. And so by the time you get down to finishing off the lawyers, which are ostensibly the hardest to talk to because they normally ask the hardest questions, not always. Some of you will find that it's easier for you to talk to the lawyers. And then you're talking at the same end of that section, you're warming up banks. You're just asking them what the lending parameters are, and you have all the scripts, or you're still in the lending mode, etc. Now, if in the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, and all the big newspapers, they have tombstones, which are big ads that are normally a whole page. Okay, and it'll be $22.2 billion healthcare deal, and then it'll be 1 or 2 or 3 brackets of investment bankers. Bulge bracket, or the head bracket, are the Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, etc. Then there's a second tier of bracket, and then the third tier, and then they'll show sometimes all the banks that participated. And so they're in the lending mode, but that tombstone may be a month late, 6 weeks late, so they may have changed. They may have fucked something up that hasn't been published yet, so they may have been in and out of the lending mode. So that's why I ask, are you still in the lending mode? I see that, the big tombstone in the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal, and normally they're in all the papers, so not just one paper. And then you narrow it down for your vertical that you're in. But most of the big financial institutions have a general review board for like healthcare, for IT. And normally that's a senior partner. And then within that is the various, assisted living would be one. But as I told you a couple of days ago, there's the country club assisted living, with golf courses and tennis courts and that kind of stuff. And then there's the bedpans where you're going to stick your mother, which is, in some parts of the United States, it's $650 a month. And a doctor comes maybe 3 times a month, to check her pulse. And it's bedpans because, we go from diapers to diapers. We lose control of our bowels as we get old, when you get old, just before you die. I plan on dying before that happens to me. I wouldn't mind some good-looking girl with big tits wiping my ass, but that's not nobody who wipes your ass. So you're checking the verticals, and they're saying yes or no. Now, you may get through 3 or 4 different people at J.P. Morgan or at Bank of America or whatever, and they say yes, and then you get down to the last one, and they say, well, we're not, our risk profile has changed. Because the guy up here or the gal up here doesn't know the fucking risk profile changed. It doesn't, meaning they've now decided not to extend any more credit in that particular area. So you've got to ask all those questions. Now, when Josh showed you, he cuts to the chase. He cuts right to the chase. And after you've done a deal and you say, we're so-and-so investment consortium in healthcare and we've done past tense a deal, you're separated. You're in a different group. They're listening to you more carefully now because they know you've done a deal. They know you've done a deal. And they get a lot of calls. And I've just was looking at some emails from Bruce Whipple. And there are people that never been here, and this is new news, that are telling the accountants and the lawyers and the banks that I'm their chairman. Okay? And that's easy enough to prove, and because there's always a bad apple in every group, and when you're dealing across the planet, for example, healthcare, so you may get somebody that says, well, you're the 4th person that has approached us, and but you can't. I'm very seldom a chairman of anybody, but you can say, and we show you the right words to use, how you use my name vis-a-vis you leaving here and going out in the real world. But there's a lot of fakers that are still doing that feel it incumbent upon them to lie. Some of which are probably watching me right now on YouTube, But when you go through this, and then we will build in the next day and a half your what we call the war action plan, because we're at war. We're going to talk about very little about internal growth, which is normally called organic growth. Very little about it, because that's not our forte. After you acquire these businesses, that's when you're using internal growth, organic growth. And as I told you yesterday, at least once, you can find almost anybody to cut expenses, but top-line growth is the easiest. And it's a lot easier, a lot simpler to be able to buy revenue than create it organically from scratch. Now, how many of you in this room have started a business one time in your life? Okay, the first $5, the first $5,000, the first $50,000, the first $500,000, depending on how much revenue, the first $1 million is geometric growth. You started from scratch. You went from 0 to 50,000, 0 to 500,000, 0 to $1 million, if you got that high, okay? That is all geometric growth from scratch. Now, when we're buying businesses, a guy's done $1 million in turnover or revenue, top line, as we've talked the last day or two, whether it's euros, pounds, or dollars, whatever. We don't know how much money it cost him to produce that million. He may have spent $5 million to produce the million. In most cases, you online morons, the big guys, the big hitters, the big fucking hitters online spend between $500 and $1,000 to test the concept. If it doesn't gain traction, if it doesn't get impressions, if it doesn't get clicks, next. Some of you in this room have been finger fucking with your online business, not for hours, not for days, not for weeks, not for months, for fucking years, trying to get traction. And you still don't have it. The beauty about the online business is the results are almost instantaneous. They're telling you it's either hot or it's a turd. And if you keep on adding money, you're wasting, you're shitting it down the toilet. So when we buy a business that's got $1 million in revenue, and I'm not recommending you buy online businesses, but we'll talk about that later this afternoon. But when you buy in the businesses, you buying de-risked revenue. De-risked revenue. The risk has been taken out of it because somebody's already paid a lot of money to produce that million. And the banks understand that. And that's why the banks like people that buy revenue as opposed to create it. Because you're buying de-risked revenue. Does everybody understand what I just said? Okay, good. Now, so that de-risked revenue is a lot easier to finance. And when you couple that de-risked revenue, free cash flow covering debt service at the various ratios that we've talked about, from 1.25 to, in Josh's case, 2.5 to 3 times. When you come into a banker and your debt service or proposed debt service for the transaction is 2 or 3 times covered by cash flow, they will lick your ass all the way back to the car park. Because most of the deals that they're brought don't even resemble that. Most of you, I already told you your business, you ought to just turn the fucking key. Most of the deals that you've pursued in your lifetime weren't deals. Deals are, the debt service has got to be covered by a combination of either cash flow or an equity injection. Now we're discounting the equity injection because that's not our model. So the banks, 99% of the deals they get on their table, across their table, emailed to them or however they get it, aren't deals. Most of the people watching this on YouTube and most of the people that come here initially wouldn't know a deal if it bit them in the ass. And the banks understand that the cash flow that's created from the top line revenue is de-risked. Because you're not going to have to spend another $2 million to create $1 million. You may pay $2 million to get the $1 million, but you know you have that revenue. And then there's different kinds of, there's AAA revenue. AAA revenue is a government contract. AAA revenue is a contract from IBM, General Motors, etc., British Telecom, and those revenue streams. And then is it for a week, a month, a year? Is it a contract? When I was doing pull contracts back many years ago, I had state contracts from utilities, 25 years. I had one 35-year contract. And the state of North Carolina, at least until then, had never defaulted on a contract. Well, it was easy peasy to fucking finance. And so, but the credits that you're going to be looking at aren't going to be as strong as that. But they will be, and they'll look at how long has the company been in business. How seasoned is the revenue? Seasoned meaning how old is the revenue stream? And if it is contractually in a contractual obligation for even 6 months, 1 year, or 3 years, it's even easier to finance. And then you go down to the lower end of the debt coverage, down to 1.15, 1.25, etc. And the reason why Josh's revenue streams, even though they're strong 2-3 times debt service, they're month to month. Very few of them are for years, and I don't believe he has any for multiple years. So just remember, the deals that you're bringing are already de-risked, and they understand that. They understand that. And so it's relatively simple to finance them. It's relatively simple to finance them. And and then the last part of the model, and if you don't pay yourself, your directors and your employees, and you pay them in bad times and in good times. You pay them recession, depression, growth cycle. So then at the end of 20, 25 years, you're not like everybody else, whereas you've got nothing to show for your 20, 25 years because you haven't taken any money out of the business. How many people, don't raise your hand, how many people have heard, well, I reinvest my money in the business because I don't know anything better than my own business? Well, that's horseshit. If you got a little $2-3 million business and you're reinvesting all your profits for 30 years, did you ever wonder why you're still only have a $2 or $3 million business? If it was such a great investment, shouldn't it be a $30, $40, $50, $80 million business after 25 years? It's not. Most people are buying one of two things: a lifestyle income and or just a job without the lifestyle. The lifestyle or the higher end of the continuum, you know, you're paying yourself, you know, not big money to me, $4, $5, $6, $7, $800,000 a year. People tell me you can have a good lifestyle on that kind of income. Sally would disagree with you vehemently, but just buying yourself a job, as you know, you can get a job as an engineer for 75 or 100 grand a year, and you're paying yourself 100 grand a year. What the fuck's the difference? You're working at Southern California Gas, they take care of you, I'm told. Where's C-Sun? Not here. C-Sun's not here. He must have died in the night. Well, one less. Fuck him. That's good. Okay. But they take care of you, and you don't have all the overhead and all the bullshit of having a company. So better yet. So we're not in here for lifestyle incomes, and we're certainly not here to buy ourselves a job. We're here to create generational wealth. And then, if you don't exit, you wasted your time. For the young kids in the room, 20 to 25, you can do this 5, 6 times in your career. Maybe 7, 8. For the guys in their 30s, you can do it 3 or 4 times. For the guys in the 50s, you can do it at least a couple times. Because remember, our cycle is 3 to 7 years, 3-year generational wealth, 3 years if everything goes right, and it normally doesn't. And Josh was an anomaly because he did it in 30 months. And he wasted 7 months, if you remember, on the big dinosaur hunt that he was on. He could have done it in less than 20 months if he hadn't pissed away time in hunting dinosaurs. And at the upper end, it's 6-7 years normally. 6-7 years, and so we say it's an average of more or less 5 years, and for those of you that are 25-ish, you can do it at least 5, 6, 7 times, because that's 25 to 35 years, and you may stop after one time. Most of the kids, when they exit the first time, because they've learned so much, then they do it again, and they exit a second time, they exit a third time. I don't have any kids right now that are in their 5th exit. I've got some in their 4th exit, because I've been doing this 26 years now. But at some level, you get tired. You get tired all the time, but at some level you get tired and you don't want to do it anymore. And after 4 or 5 times, you've proven the concept. The concept's already proved, but you've proven the concept to you. Just because everybody else does it, that doesn't mean you can do it. And so after you've proved the concept 3 or 4 times, and by that time you've got, most probably a significant amount of generational wealth, then you hang it up. Or you do it at a lesser rate, and you don't work as hard. I don't recommend that, but you do it at a lesser rate, and you don't work as hard, and you get philanthropic, and you try to pave your way to heaven, if there is a heaven, and you go through all that shit, kind of like where I am. And just in case, I got no proof other than, I got faith, but I've got no proof that it's there. But and we're going to see some slides later on about when Steve Jobs died, and and there's a lot of bullshit on the internet, supposedly what he said. But his stepsister, who was in the room holding his hand, says something else. He said 3 words: wow, 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 click. That's it. And before that, he had said, I hope it's not just like turning out the lights. And we're going to talk about one of my mentees who had died and came back. Okay, YouTube, thank you.